good afternoon, and welcome to Cat Space. Unfortunately, Lou and Buckets cannot join us today. Both are working, but I'm here with my brother and my best mate, Leon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It feels like it's been a few days since we did this last.
Uh,
Oh, wait a minute,
yes,
it has.
we had a successful podcast, which has got us 84 views and one like and four comments. So thank you to those who are commenting. I appreciate and validate you so much. Keep them coming. Okay, so the topic today of that successful one is the Liberals versus the Nationals. Now, is the honeymoon period over? Question one. Here we go. Leon, which party benefits the most from this, the Liberals or the Nationals split?
Well, considering the dilemma that took place in the last 24 hours with the Liberal Party and also the Nationals, it can benefit two parties, I think. I think the main party it would benefit right now is the Labor Party because they're united at the moment. They don't, and right now in their position at the moment, they don't need the Greens to pass the bill. But um, if they need to buddy up with the Greens, they're able to. So that makes it like a super majority, so to speak. And the Liberals and Nationals, now that they appear to have split, quite frankly, they're both on what 10 or 11 seats in the. I don't know. I think it might have been the Senate or something. I've got to find out all this information, but it really has done both parties so much damage to their brands that could also make way for One Nation to come right up the middle here and turn the Liberal Party and national parties into minor parties, and the One Nation would become a major party.
Mm. I think for me, neither the Greens nor the Labour um will benefit. And the reason why I say that is because are on point with the Nationals. Now, One Nation is soaring into the polls in a big shock. And people are backing Pauline Hanson and One Nation. And I think One Nation will benefit from this because you say Labour are uniting together. I think One Nation is banding together stronger because they are speaking to the public. They're listening to what the people need, and they are actually planning on working on some really important criteria when it comes to Australia. So I think Pauline Hanson and One Nation are going to benefit much more than the Greens, much more than the Teals, much more than the Labor or any other party at the moment. So I give it One Nation to benefit.
One thing I also would mention, I think it might have been in the House of Representatives yesterday, that Barnaby Joyce did kind of tease the Liberal Party a little bit yesterday. I think it might have been in Parliament, or I can't remember where I heard it, but he said that the Nationals would more than likely be welcome in One Nation. So imagine if the Nationals,
Mm.
like, even though it appears that they have split, imagine if the Nationals joined up with One Nation,
That'd be a
then the
plus.
Liberal Party would completely be
Annihilate.
yeah, they'll be the minor party from this point forward, and the Nationals and One Nation. Ooh, that would be an interesting scenario there.
That would be historic because that would be never
It
have
would.
heard of.
It would be because you got Barnaby Joyce, who was a former National, is now in One Nation,
Mm.
and you got Pauline Hanson, who was a former Liberal. I think she was she a former Liberal or former Labor? She
Mm.
might have. I'm just trying to think which party Pauline Hanson was in before she decided to run with Pauline Hanson's One Nation, now One Nation.
I don't know.
I'll have to do a quick checkup on that, but in the meantime, go ahead.
Okay, so question two: is Susan Lee's position as the Liberal leader now untenable?
I think it is. I think it is now because this is the second time which the Nationals have threatened to break away. I think, yeah, definitely. She is definitely in a bad spot, bad position right now. It shows that she can't negotiate with these guys. She can't negotiate with these Nationals, and also she basically threw down. She played the Nationals punk card yesterday when you either vote, you either. She basically told the party, even the Nationals, to vote with us, and these guys wouldn't, and these guys refused. And the three that started it all, started this land rush of resignations. When something like that happens, regardless of what party you're in, your position is untenable. Even David Littleproud, who was the Nationals leader, resigned from the opposition front bench, which is the Liberal front bench. Once that happens, your position is untenable.
Hmm. But the thing is, if they're resigning left, right, and center, right? Here's a random question I'm going to throw out. Do you think another, like Labour or Greens or the Teals would be, fishing is a bad word, would be poaching, you know, the ones who have retired to join their,
Resigned.
who have resigned to join their party?
I wouldn't think that I don't think they would, because they've spent all this time fighting the Teals. I don't think it'd be a great idea to be joining them right now. And just for the record, I did check up on Pauline Hanson. She was a Liberal member. So there you go.
Mm,
So I don't, yeah, I can't see the Nationals who did resign from the front bench because they had to move to the back bench. I can't see them joining the Teals, but I could potentially see these Nationals joining One Nation.
mm,
That would make Pauline Hanson's position a hell of a lot stronger, and she would make an even more formidable opponent
mm.
for Anthony Albanese rather than Susan Lee, because I guarantee you, I reckon that when the next news poll comes out, you thought Susan Lee's approval ratings were bad before. These will absolutely fall through the floor.
Mm.
It'll be shown that Suzanne Lee can't cut through, and I think this is probably going to be the final straw for Suzanne Lee. But the question is, who would come in as the Liberal leader to try and sort this out? Because whoever does this needs to get the Nationals back on board, and back on board quickly.
I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't mean to upset the viewers, but I feel as though the Liberal Party's always had a curse or an issue where the opposition leader isn't as strong as what they make themselves out to be, and then down the line it just gets weaker and weaker and weaker to the point of suddenly now we've got Susan Lee, who may not be there for long, who will probably, her own party would probably say, well, we need someone who will lead us to the elections, will win us the elections. And I think, I don't know, I feel like the Liberal Party um isn't going to be lasting much longer because their opposition leader isn't leading or is afraid to lead, or there's, I don't know, I just feel like maybe it's a curse, or maybe it's just they're not banding together like they used to. They're not as strong as they used to be.
I think the problem is Suzanne Lee played the punk card, right? You all need to vote how we vote, and they didn't. You can't just say that, because you need everybody to have the freedom to vote whichever way they wish, without any repercussions. Because these three voted against, they had no choice but to stand down. And I also think that with any party that is now in opposition, or in opposition for a second term or whatever, um, you'll find that the bottom hasn't dropped out yet. I think, to be honest, I think after the last election, with the Liberal and National parties losing 19 seats or whatever they lost at the last election, I think you'll find that they have now hit rock bottom, and the only way they can go from here is up. But if this kind of stuff keeps on happening, then the bottom is not going to drop out yet. It'll drop out at the next election, and they'll be reduced to a kitchen table full of members. And that's not good. You'll have to be like what happened in Queensland. What happened is one of the Queensland parties was reduced to a kitchen table. Literally, they had bugger all members, and they managed to fight back. It took them a few elections, but they managed to fight back, and they managed to get themselves into power. So it's going to take a long time for the Australian public to see Suzanne Lee as a credible leader. But right now, she's not being seen as a credible leader.
Mm.
And that's
Okay.
why I think they need to bring in someone else who has a profile, who the people generally believe has a shot of toppling Anthony Albanese. But the problem is now they've got to they've got to get the Nationals back on board in order for that to be at least somewhat competitive at the next election.
Mm. Since you're speaking of toppling, here's my next question. Should the Liberals and Nationals stop infighting and focus on beating the Labour Party?
Absolutely, man. Right now, these guys are just fighting each other, and that benefit. And I did mention something like this. While there is infighting going on between the Liberals and the Nationals, it only benefits Anthony Albanese and the Labor Party right now because despite the fact that Pauline Hanson's coming through the middle with this popularity boost, it's not going to be enough for One Nation to take government. So this really does only benefit at this point in time. It only benefits the Labor Party at this point.
Mm.
But they need to stop this infighting because the more that they infight, the more it shows that, that this relationship right now between the Liberals and the Nationals is unworkable.
Mm. Great. I mean, I don't have to answer that. You took the words right out of my mouth. And I think that's
This
exactly
ain't
what I.
even a Meatloaf song.
Yeah, well, there you go. Uh, Here's the next question. What will this mean for both campaigns from the Liberal and National Party going forward?
And it'd be interesting to see which way they focus on what are they going to fight on right now. Are the Liberal Party going to fight on what's the are they going to fight on the um
Caucus deal?
no, not the AUKUS deal. I don't think it's a real problem at the moment. I think the migration issue is a big problem at the moment. The hate speech is a big problem at the moment, despite the fact that that's going through the parliament as we speak. And
Mm.
same with this. I don't know why they tied in the guns buyback or whatever. They didn't need stop. They didn't really need to, but I think the radicalization of people, that's a big problem at the moment, and because the that's on Anthony Albanese's head. So I think what the Liberal Party and the National Party need to do is they need to focus on Anthony Albanese's weaknesses right now, going forward. Um, but right now they're not. They're focusing on each other.
I agree
So
with you.
if I was a Liberal Party, I would focus on the migration issue and the fact that that Anthony Albanese did promise to keep the cost of living prices down, and they're not, and they're up. And he's been in Parliament now for 2 terms. He's now run the country for 2 terms at the moment. This is his second right now, and prices are not going down. Even there's talk of interest rate rising throughout 2026, and that can only be a bad thing for people who are renting, like yourselves. Um, so they need to focus on that. And as far as the National Party needs to concern themselves with, is the rural issue at the moment, the rural issues. So, because when you're a minor party like the Nationals, don't get me wrong, the National parties, I think, are doing great, but they're supposed to be rural Australians, and they're not. They're trying to take the ruralism out into the city, and that doesn't work that way. It doesn't really work that way if you're a rural person wanting to live in the city. It doesn't quite work that way.
I think he touched on something about Mr. Albanese's weakness, and I think that Liberals and Nationals should focus on, as he said, where he's weak when it comes to uh, immigration, when it comes to inflation. Speaking of inflation, he said he'll bring the price of electricity down by $275, which he never kept his promise on. Also, uh, if I'm not mistaken, um, the big branded supermarkets were being monitored by the ACCC during their price gouging, and they're still making people pay a lot of money for their shopping. Also, the fact that uh, public schools aren't being funded that well, and I think they both need to look at that and go, okay, these are his weaknesses. These are what he said he would do. He hasn't done. I think we could do better than that. We can make it better. We could help. We could talk about maybe bring the price of rent down, which will never happen. But it's worth discussing, talking about people like who are below the poverty line when it comes to Centrelink. not getting that much, raising the price, helping people like myself out who, who are struggling. There's not enough jobs out there. People say there is, but there isn't. Um, and sort of help people get into schooling on, it's not just, oh, if you're a mechanic, we'll put you through school, or, we'll remove your hex. That we need to educate ourselves in order to get into the job that we want. Not everything, we also need to focus on what happened in Bondi. We also need to, focus on, our hospitals. There are not enough hospital beds, and doctors and nurses are walking out on a daily basis. Teachers are protesting not enough pay in their schools.
You brought up an interesting point there regarding the hospitals and stuff like that. I don't mind them bringing in new hospitals, but the problem is, even if you're bringing in new hospitals, you don't have enough nurses to fill them.
No, you don't.
So if you're going to bring in new hospitals, that is fine with me, but you got to make sure you got to bring in nurses, doctors that can fill these hospitals, because if you don't, we're just going to have twice as much of a problem. And also, I checked out the prices of the electricity in Australia, by the way, between 2022 and 2025, there has been sharp to moderate increases of prices well, let's see, between three, let's see, 9.7%. The electricity prices are going to be rising in 2025. It's going to be increasing 9.7%. So that completely offsets $275 and then some. Quite frankly, it just makes everyone minus like $750 or something.
Yeah. And see, that's not a problem. But for me, there aren't enough doctors and nurses and registered mental health nurses in hospitals, because take for example how many hospitals we have across Australia. They work and they get, they work and they work and they work and they work, and they don't have enough time to be with their families. They don't have enough time to go to sleep, and they don't have time for nutrition. And I think we really, really, really need to focus on getting more doctors and nurses into hospitals and just helping us out a little bit, because now with the supposed, you know, flu virus thing going around, they're not able to keep up. And teachers, how are they supposed to teach kids when they don't even get a paycheck, a big paycheck?
Well, this
Then
is
they can
something
get
that well, this is something that the Liberal Party and the National Party should focus on instead of focusing on each other right now, is what they're doing the last 24
exactly.
hours, last week or whatever. They need to focus on Anthony Albanese's weaknesses, like not being able to go through with the promise about keeping electricity prices lower, or the schools, the public school system at the moment that's broken, ambulance ramping and stuff like that. That's a major issue, especially in
Centrelink,
Victoria. I've seen that story.
Centrelink.
And so they need to target these on a daily basis just to make sure the people have not forgotten, and also to make sure that the people know that the Liberal Party and the National Party haven't forgotten.
Mm,
And also the followers haven't forgotten either. So when that stuff starts to cut through, Anthony Albanese is going to have a fight on his hands. And also his response to Bondi didn't help him. So they, being the Liberal Party and also the National Party, should focus on that as well.
yeah.
Target Anthony Albanese's weaknesses.
And also not just that, you touched upon it, but also don't forget something, the rent, the price of rent. I mean, take a
Yeah.
look at Sydney. You want to move somewhere to say Parramatta, you're looking at $800 a week, $900 a week. You look at somewhere like Penrith, also 800, $900 a week. You look at places that are close to where you and I are, or further out. You're not going to get something that's. I don't think in our lifetime we're going to see the price of rent go down, because people who have bought houses or live in the house paying mortgage, their mortgage is high, so therefore rent goes high.
Yeah.
And, is it worth landlords taking more than what their fair share? I don't think so. I think that's why the Liberal and the Nationals should really look at it and go, okay, these are the whole stuff that Anthony Albanese and the Labour government are weak on. Let's focus on all these agendas.
And I think that's why you're seeing people moving in with random people, because they can't
Yeah,
afford the rent, so they split rent.
yeah,
And I believe you and I both know of somebody who's actually gone through that way.
yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of know.
Mm. I've lived in a shared home. I know what
Mm,
it feels like to pay rent. Phillips
yeah,
Buckets has lived in a shared home. He knows what it's like to pay rent. I mean, even if you move in with strangers or friends or family, sharing the rent money is great, but how long is it going to last for?
exactly.
You know? Um, but yeah, let's look at the last question then. Um, could this spell the end of the Liberal and National Party?
Well, if they can't get back on the same page, well, if they can't get back on the same page, then it will probably be the end for both parties, to be honest. Because when it comes to the elections and stuff like that, federally, the Liberal Party needs the Nationals. That's what they call themselves, the Liberal National Party. For the longest period of time, right now, it doesn't seem to be that way. It's the Liberal Party and the National Party.
Mm,
They need to join up because I get because if it's a close battle at the election in some parties, like in some seats, you guarantee it that the first say at the election will be a Labor Party who is leading, and the Greens will come in second, and their votes will go towards whoever's in first at the moment at that point in time. So if it's the Labor Party in first and the Greens in second, first preferences are going to matter. First preferences will go to Labor
mm,
and they will extend their leads in various seats, and stuff like that.
mm,
That's why the Liberal Party needs the Nationals. Because if they don't get the Nationals on board, the Nationals are going to say, well, we're not going to preference you second. The National parties are going to be doomed. And
mm,
and vice versa. If the Liberal Party doesn't put the Nationals in second or whatever, first preferences and stuff like that, they're going to be gone.
mm.
So
Exactly.
these two need to think very carefully what is in their best interest, or trying to win an election, or just try to cancel each other out to a point where you've actually done that. You have canceled each other out literally.
Mm. Think of it. If Leon's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to our subscribers and viewers, he's right because now, as we said, now's the time to start your campaign and what you're planning for your strategies. And I think get your heads together, sit in one room, hash it out. Because if you cancel each other out, guess what? None of you are going to win an election.
I guarantee you, the Labor Party are going to hammer on this.
Mm,
The Labor Party are going to hammer this home that these two parties can't get along. They're not getting along.
mm.
So I guarantee you they'll use that.
Yeah, to their strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
And then one nation will come out on top and say, well, these guys aren't getting along either. So we've got what it takes. It's a
There you
tough
go.
call. It's a tough call. Oh, well, that was the end of our podcast. Thank you so much for my brother and my best mate, Leon. I'll leave it with the subscribers and viewers. Which party do you think benefits the most from? Is it the Liberals or the Nationals or other parties? Let us know in the comments below. We'll be back next week for another podcast. Until then, wherever you are in the world, take care of each other and really spread kindness and love. Thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to like our podcast. Thanks, guys.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, bye.